Plato, an ancient Greek philosopher considered by many to be the most important philosopher who ever lived. He offered the first, oldest argument that our physical body and soul are two separate entities. This became known as dualism, and those who believe and support the view that our body and soul are two individual things are referred to as dualists. Before we understand Plato's dualism, we must understand Plato's initial view of the world. This is best done through Plato's allegory of the cave, which can be found in Book 7 of the Republic. An allegory is an analogy where a short story is narrated with a deeper meaning behind it. In this analogy, there are three prisoners who have been living in a cave since birth. They are tied down with their backs against the wall. All they see in front of them is the shadows of those walking behind them due to the flame light. They see shadows of human figures, animals, plants, objects, and so on. One day, one of the prisoners escapes the cave. He became so used to the darkness that the sun is now blinding him. He then no longer sees the shadows of the humans, animals, plants, and objects, but instead sees this all in the physical world. He can't believe his eyes and rushes to tell the other prisoners. However, the other prisoners think he is speaking lies and label him as insane. There are many parts of Plato's allegory which represent important messages. The cave represents people who believe that knowledge comes from what we see and hear in the world, empirical evidence. The cave shows that the believers of empirical knowledge are trapped in a cave of misunderstanding. The shadows represent the false perception of truthful knowledge. The escaped prisoner represents the philosopher who seeks knowledge outside of the cave with the help of the sun. The trapped prisoners represent the fear we have in not trusting philosophical truths. Using this analogy, Plato explains that the world we live in is an imitation of the real world, and in this real world we can find the true forms of everything. For example, in the world of forms there is an ideal form of a perfect cat, but in our, let's say, fake world, there are different types of cats, as they are an imitation of what a perfect cat should be like. This model also works on concepts. Let's take beauty. In the world of forms there's an ideal form of beauty, but once we are in our world, this form of beauty can now manifest into makeup, fashion, art, nature. Now what does the world of forms mean for mind-body dualism? Here we will use Plato's allegory of the chariot. We have two horses and a driver. The horses want to take different paths. The small horse is the soul, which wants to take us on a journey of understanding, and the big horse is the body, which wants to dominate and travel to physical pleasures. The driver of the chariot is the mind and ultimately controls the destination. Here we can see that the soul and body work together but are still two separate entities. The soul pre-exists in the body and is passed down through generations due to its simplicity and eternal nature. This knowledge of forms is innate and must have been gained by our souls before we were born. For example, saying I am a cat means the speaker is a cat and has the properties of a cat. However, saying I have a cat means the owner owns a cat. Naturally, we also say I have a body and not I am a body. This is due to a priori knowledge based on judgment rather than observations. The soul has come from the world of forms, which explains the a priori knowledge we have about forms. In order for us to obtain the a priori knowledge, something must bring the knowledge from the world of ideas into the physical world of senses. It is the soul that is responsible for doing this. It is important to remember that dualism is not limited to Plato, but in fact many philosophers throughout time have contributed to this idea, such as René Descartes, Max Weber, and Victoria Grace. So, there you have it, dualism as envisioned by Plato in under 5 minutes. The opposite of dualism is monism, which views the soul and body as one. What would you say you are, a dualist or a monist? Thank you for watching.